So a lot of people have been clowning on the PlayStation Portal ever since it was announced, and honestly, a lot of their criticism is pretty valid considering some weird design decisions that went into the PlayStation Portal. But despite everyone's relative kind of meh feelings about Sony's new portable, personally I decided to go ahead and take the leap and pre-order one. Now maybe it's just because I have a soft spot for Sony handhelds because I did love the PSP, absolutely love the Vita, but the PlayStation Portal is a completely different kind of beast. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, is what exactly the PlayStation Portal is and why I decided to go ahead and take the leap and pre-order one, and then finally some of the things that I'm not so hot on when it comes to Sony's new handheld device. So with all of that out of the way, let's just go ahead and talk about what the PlayStation Portal actually is. The PlayStation Portal is a handheld gaming device that is effectively just a DualSense controller that's been split in half and attached to either side of an 8-inch LCD screen. It can push 1080p visuals at 60 FPS and can connect to your PS5 either over local Wi-Fi or remotely. Now obviously your mileage is going to vary in the quality department, and that makes perfect sense considering this thing really is just a controller, a screen, and a Wi-Fi connection. It has no onboard storage, it has no ability to play games outside of what it can stream from your PlayStation 5. Now the battery life of this unit is supposed to be something on par with the DualSense controllers, which I guess is kind of decent, but at the same time the DualSense controller has not been the best performing controller that I've seen from modern consoles in terms of battery life, but I guess it kind of makes sense considering it is largely a DualSense controller, and it sounds like they're expecting about 5 to 6 hours of battery life, which compared to what I'm personally familiar with when it comes to systems like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally, that really doesn't seem that bad, but again, this is something we'll just have to speculate on until the unit actually comes out. And speaking of the DualSense controller, it will have all of the buttons that you would expect on the DualSense controller, including a 3.5mm headphone jack for good measure. Now when it comes to touchpad functionality, that 8-inch LCD is a touchscreen, so a portion of that will be dedicated to allowing for touchpad functionality for games that require it. And it should be noted that despite the fact that this will play PS5 and PS4 games that are installed on your PlayStation 5, it will not play any games you have to stream from PlayStation Network like PlayStation 2 Classics and games in that vein. So even though it will probably be well suited to the bulk of your library, especially if it's digitally installed on your hard drive, it's not going to be able to play absolutely everything that your PlayStation can. So that's what the system is in a nutshell, but why would I actually want to purchase this for myself? After all, I've already done previous videos showing that you can use PlayStation Remote Play on the Steam Deck. I'm pretty sure you can do it on the Ally as well. You can actually stream your PlayStation 5 to your phone, to your tablet, or if you just want to stay within the Sony ecosystem, you can even stream that to your PlayStation Vita, assuming you have one knocking around. So what's the point in actually going for this device when there are so many other options available to me? Well, there are a few reasons, but I would say the first one is that I really appreciate that this has a very singular focus on what it sets out to do. It plays PS5 and PS4 games remotely, and that's it. So when I pick up the device, I know exactly what it's going to do, and I won't have to worry about anything like driver updates or bloatware that's kind of, gumming up the works on this new system that I picked up and I just want to play games on. It's just going to play PS4 and PS5 games remotely from my PlayStation 5. So in theory, the only thing that will be between me and that experience is the strength of my network connection, and also however much juice I have left, which again is a problem that I can mitigate pretty easily thanks to a variety of beefy backup batteries that I now have thanks to the Ally and the Steam Deck. Now I'm not saying that I don't appreciate the more Swiss Army knife-like abilities of something like the Steam Deck or the Ally, or even some of the PlayStation's more capable predecessors like the Vita and the PSP. I'm just saying that I also appreciate when a device has a very singular focus and really comes off more like an appliance than a sort of do-everything device. Which sort of brings me to the next reason I'm excited to try out the PlayStation Portal, and that is because it will have an uncompromised control scheme. I love the Nintendo Switch, and it definitely paved the way for a lot of the devices that we enjoy today, but if you asked me to play a game with the Joy-Cons versus the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, I would choose the latter every time. That's just because it feels demonstrably better than using the comparatively smaller controls that are the Joy-Cons, and in the same way the PlayStation Portal is going to enjoy that same benefit, having a perfect match to the DualSense controller, right down to the haptic feedback that it can provide. Not to mention, I'm sure going to appreciate full-size analog sticks over the much smaller analog sticks that we had on something like the Vita, or the only single analog nub that we had on the PlayStation Portable. And again, beyond the comfort of a full-size controller complete with standard analog sticks that I'm sure will be a dead ringer for the DualSense itself, the other thing is that haptic feedback really is no joke. I remember being excited whenever the Joy-Cons first made their debut and hearing about Nintendo's HD Rumble, but if you've ever had the opportunity to use a DualSense controller and play a game that really takes full advantage of that haptic feedback and see all of the range of sensation that it can deliver to the player, it really is a game changer. And while I could technically just go ahead and pair a DualShock 4 or an existing DualSense that I have for the PS5 with a Mac or an iPad that I have somewhere in the house, then I have to carry around two devices with me, and the other part of that is that every time that I've actually performed that pairing and used a DualSense with another device, it's kind of been hit or miss whether or not I could actually get the haptics to work properly. By contrast, the Portal is all-in-one, meaning that I have everything that I need in a convenient grab-and-go form factor. Sure, it's not going to be as streamlined as something like the Vita that I can just put in my pocket, but I can be assured that whenever I do decide to use it, that it's going to at least give me the full DualSense experience and give me what I need on a screen without me having to haul around multiple devices for the privilege. Because I really like the idea of playing PlayStation 5 games at other places in my house without having to pull up to my desk or, necessarily sit in front of the TV in my living room to just enjoy it. If I want to squeeze in a few quick rounds of multiplayer on a game that I only have on my PS5, it would be nice to be able to just grab the PlayStation Portal and do that and just play a few rounds before bed. And I think the final reason that I'm really willing to dive in on a streaming-only handheld device, the first I've ever had actually, is just out of pure curiosity. How long's the battery life actually going to be for this thing, or will I be able to get a stable connection out in the wild if I decide to tether it to my phone and get an internet connection that way? Is it possible that latency will be reduced because this is an all-in-one device and I'm not using a Bluetooth controller with another device that's then streaming on the network to get the PlayStation Remote experience there? These are all questions that I don't have the answer to, but I'm excited to find out whenever I finally get some hands-on time with the PlayStation Portal. But for all of my excitement about this quasi-on-the-go portable from Sony, there are some things that I'm definitely not a fan of. First up, even though I love the DualSense controller, and I think it's probably my favorite controller of this generation, it is not technically immune to a drift problem. In fact, my dad has gone through at least 2 different DualSense controllers, one of which was mine. Thanks for that, Dad. That started experiencing drift on the left stick, and even though that may not be a huge deal because you could just go out and buy another DualSense controller, if that starts to happen with this, am I going to have to replace the unit entirely? What kind of repair system will be in place to make sure that that gets fixed? I don't know that it's going to have some off-the-shelf solution like you can get from something from like the Steam Deck where you just replace the analog stick fairly easily. Beyond that, the lack of Bluetooth is a real bummer here. On the one hand, I wonder if this might have been something that they did to maybe prevent interference with the Wi-Fi, since again it is a streaming-only device, but more practically speaking, from a business perspective, I would suspect that Sony did this because that way you would have to buy their 2 new wireless proprietary headsets, one of which being the Pulse Explorer earbuds, which come in at an eyebrow-raising $200, and the other is the Pulse, I think, Extreme headset, which is kind of a beefed-up version of the Pulse 3D headset from what I've seen, which comes in at $150. Now, I have the Pulse 3D, it's a good performing headset, maybe not the most comfortable headset that I've ever worn, but I'm not real jazzed about the idea of having to shell out $150 to $200 just to get a wireless audio experience with a system that is going to stream, games that look as good as the PlayStation 5 games do. I mean, sure, it's nice that they at least included a 3.5mm headphone jack, but who knows, maybe someone will come out with like some kind of an adapter so you actually can use Bluetooth headphones with this thing. I'm just saying, it really would have been nice to have that as an inclusion. And finally, I do wish the price were closer to $149 than $199. Now, I predicted a while back that this would probably come in at $200 because Sony is a premium brand after all, and they can probably get away with it. But it seems like for everything on offer, they could have put the price closer to $150. Don't get me wrong, I definitely don't think they should have gone higher than $200, because if they had, I don't think this thing would sell that well, and honestly, I'm not even sure how many people are going to go for it in the first place, but yeah, I think it would have been a more palatable choice for a lot of people that have a PlayStation 5 already if they gotten that price closer to $150. But hey, at the end of the day, if it can competently deliver on what it sets out to do, again, that is play PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 games reliably, whether I'm in-house or possibly remote, depending on my network connectivity, I think I'll be a happy camper with this, especially if I can enjoy all of the haptic feedback, that we normally get from a DualSense controller in this form factor. So anyways, those are my reasons for going ahead and taking the leap on the PlayStation Portal. It should be coming out this November. I'll probably do like a hands-on video with it whenever I do get it. But hey, what about you? If you already have a PlayStation 5, you have any interest in this thing at all, or are you like, nope, I'm already set, I have a Steam Deck or an Ally or some other portable device that lets me enjoy PlayStation Remote already, so definitely not something I'm looking forward to. If so, I would love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for your time, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.